Hello, and welcome to another episode of Marketing Corner. Here, we're bringing some of those real challenges from real businesses, real individuals back in the classroom for you, the students, to play with. Today, we're very blessed to have with us a very interesting topic, but a very interesting individual. We've got Cindy Wheeler here with us, who comes from the background of philanthropy, nonprofit, and the side of business. We don't really tend to hear a lot about these things. We tend to hear a lot about for-profit businesses, but there is a place for all different types of business, from nonprofit to profit businesses. And we're going to have a little conversation with Cindy about that world and understand a little bit more about that world. Cindy, before we get into our show, welcome, by the way. Thank you for
Hey,
coming.
David, I appreciate it.
So, Cindy, you've been in this world for quite a long time.
I have.
You have. Good. So tell us a little bit about you, Cindy, the individual Cindy, before we jump into this world.
Okay. So, the last 25, 26 years has been, like you were just mentioning, has been with the nonprofit sector. Prior to that I was a dental assistant. I worked in a few other businesses. I worked for the Children's Aid Society, which really brought me into my world, which I was really most comfortable, where my heart, my passion is, certainly helping families and or kids. So I think that if you're okay that with the 25 years, there's been two: Children's Aid Society for 20 years. And then I went out to Ottawa and I was working for the Ottawa Rotary Home, which is a respite for children, youth, and adults living with very, very medical, difficult, physical, medical situations. So both of those areas were really easy to get out there and be passionate about it and talk to the community. So I think really where it comes down with nonprofits is bringing businesses that you've normally worked with, businesses and community-minded members of their or people, with nonprofits that need the help. So I know that when I was working with the Children's Aid Society, so many of my friends had said, we've never known or been touched by CAS. Nobody in foster care, sort of that element. So it was really interesting to be able to bring that to the table and show people what the need was, because they had no idea. So I think in most cases, you're a storyteller. If you're not a good storyteller, you're not going to do well. It's fair to say that you're not going to do well at fundraising, but being a storyteller really helps, because I think it really makes it clear and real for the people that you're talking to, that you need the money from.
So, but you've got to have a passion for this, right, in order to jump into it. So you established this passion 25, 30 years ago. Was there a personal story that drove this passion, or was it just came upon you?
Well, it's funny because I was a single mom and my kids were 2 and 4 when I was out on my own. And I started at a way back in the day. My kids are 32 and 34. So this is going back 30 years ago, where it was called the Volunteer Center. And people in the community wanted to know where they could volunteer with nonprofits. So we were like a center where they would come get brochures, information, and we would bring them, sort of tie them together, or fit them where maybe their interests were. So really, I had never done, I can tell you right now, I had hardly done any fundraising, any volunteering. I was too busy with 2 small kids. Who are we fooling?
Yeah.
So it really opened my eyes into the world of nonprofit. And then I realized that that was really where I wanted to go. Leaving dentistry, that was certainly the path that I wanted to take. Still didn't know where that was going to land me, but I just knew. I sat on boards. I did sit on the Big Brothers Big Sisters many years ago. Anything to tie with kids or how my kids would benefit, those were the boards that I would try to seek, sit on, and enjoyed every minute. And my kids benefited, obviously.
I love it, Cindy. So tell us a couple of the success stories they've had over the 25 years.
As far as an event, like, would
Yeah,
that be?
events or act. Yeah, like how did you get out and creating that event and setting up that event and getting the message of that event and getting even the funding to support it?
Sure. Well, again, you have to think outside the box. You can't stay within this when I was with the Children's Aid Society, we knew we needed to help the kids in care. We knew we wanted to give them more than what the government financially could just give them.
Mhm.
So that's when I started way back in the day, the backpack program, and worked with our local Staples and took care of 400 kids every school year, the beginning of the school semester. Then it got so big that we then handed it off to United Way here locally, and then they took off and went with the backpack program. So that, that has so many different elements to it. Also, kids coming from a home into the care of CAS, into
Mhm.
foster care, were basically coming with the clothes on their back. That was it. So again, we started another program, suitcases, and then the kids would do backpacks, separate
Mhm.
backpacks filled with, snacks or some pajamas or little treats for the kids. Like there, so many of the community were just so thoughtful in the things that they put in the bags or in the suitcase, and included a message, you
Mhm.
know, which was very cool. I did probably 18 years of a golf tournament with them,
Yeah.
and over those years, we had many celebrities, that came out and joined us. Um, what else? Gourmet dinners, another 17, 18 years worth of those. I don't know if you know Wendell Clark,
Yeah, no,
NHL or not.
who could not know a hockey fan? Of
Okay.
course, definitely.
So he doesn't live far from here, very different from BC. So he's just down closer to Toronto and Vaughan, and reached out. You have to pay. They
Yeah,
don't come for free,
yeah,
but paid to have him come to our community. And I sold tables of 10, and it was $100 a table. But they didn't know that I had a free bar. I didn't advertise the free bar because somebody else had sponsored that,
yeah.
Spirits Canada, and I didn't want everyone to come just for a drunken night, right? So and you have to make sure you have a lot of food if you're going to give free alcohol. Like there's different aspects. It's about the experience, whether it be the
Mhm.
golf tournament, whether it be Wendell coming. I also had Theo Fleury. He did an incredible talk on his terrible experiences as a young man. So all of those things were really, how can you make it as an experience when they walk away, they go, wow,
Mhm.
what was different about our golf tournament to the other 65 running in your community that they're going to want to come back?
Yeah, I love it, Cindy. And I think these are just the great stories. And really, what I wanted to do is set the framework of like, this is like, there's a lot of work that goes into not
Mhm.
only doing the event and creating the event, but the lead up to this element. And how do you actually even build the event that actually draws individuals into it so they
Mhm.
actually can contribute to the charity? So Sydney, now, we've gone through this world of COVID, and I'm sure that was a challenge for you. And like, how do you do events in COVID? And then moving forth into the new element. So, what's the current situation right now that you see as you go out and start to build these elements? Has the tides changed a little bit? Has people's interests, desires, or where they're at, and how do you reach them? Has it changed?
I think so. There was a year or two that it was really hard for anybody to part with their dollars because everything is so much more money. So, as all your business people out there would know,
Yeah.
they're all struggling, whether our groceries, our gas to get somewhere, that's hard. So, there's still going to be people out there for tax reasons. They need to put so much money into a nonprofit. So, it's
Hmm.
still available, obviously, but our events were less people. The
Hmm.
golf tournaments seem to be less people, unless you're a hospital where you can bring all the vendors, everything that you at a hospital. You can imagine how many vendors they'd have that they buy their needles, their gloves, every zillion things. They donate money, so that's going to
Hmm.
be a success no matter what. Something like Big Brothers Big Sisters, very different. So we'll get about 80 golfers for our Big Brothers Big Sisters tournament this year. Again, all the businesses that you're working with, we're asking them for donations for the auction. It's still the same kind of idea, but how can you make it different? It's just trying to think. Online auctions, I think, are fabulous
Hmm.
because it's not just these 50, 60, 70 people at your event. It's everybody outside that can also bid on them. So I love the idea of online auctions.
But even like in that element, like we're talking about the next evolution and more into the world of digitalization, and how do we connect with these individuals in a different way? And from online auction as a one example, but
Mhm.
how do we start to interact with these individuals in a different way? Has
Mhm.
that become a challenge to try and reach these and find these individuals where they're at, and how do you
Mhm.
impact on them so that they want to give back to the community or give back to that charity?
Well, and again, many years ago, because I'm old, David,
Yeah.
we didn't have
Young at
digital. We
heart.
didn't.
Come on.
We don't have. We didn't have social media. We didn't have any of that. So we were back in the day where you made the phone calls and you called or you faxed or put up posters or dropped off. That was a lot of legwork. So you were limited to how far outside of where you were you could go. Very different now with social media and the
Mhm.
marketing aspect. Amazing what that door has opened. So I think that as a business or a nonprofit, really, really important to grow those numbers on your, as old school as Facebook is, or LinkedIn or Instagram, grow those numbers. You have to work hard at that, because then when you're going to do an event, you're depending on those people to see what you send out,
Mhm.
reaching out to other family and friends or board members or board of directors to share as well. You have to let them know. They're all really good at liking them,
Yeah.
but you have to ask them to please share, and then that's going to hit bigger and better groups. So it's changed, but it's still not easy. It's still, I think a lot of it's personal. I think a lot of those personal asks are still what works.
Yeah. I love that you said, it needs to be more than a like, and I tell my students this because like is truly not really that engaging. It is element of it creates awareness of something,
Hmm.
but you need to bring it further and engage them further. How do you get them to
Hmm.
engage with you and move them down the path of what we consider conversion and a
Hmm.
profitable element or a non-profitable element? How do we get them to do the action that we want them to do at the end of it? So I love what you're saying at this element.
Oh,
Now, would you say over this period of time and now that the actual tools to reach the customer have changed, has the customer changed? Has the individuals that you're serving changed?
I think so, because again, 20 years ago, when we were all 20 years younger,
Yeah.
that group was very active, I found. Now they're much older and they're not as active. The younger generation coming up, my daughter, for instance, who's 32, she's active in things that I probably do. She's in Ottawa and she's
Yeah.
going to help me with the Amazing Race, and she'll come home for that. But I don't see that same element. I don't see them sharing or involved in. It's just, it's different. So I think from marketing, everybody has to be really creative in what that one shot looks like to get out and get everyone's attention. That 30 seconds, or you'd know better than I, is it 30 seconds if it's a video, or is it 10 seconds to grab them? Like, what does that look like?
But is that younger generation, are they contributing to these nonprofits?
Yes, definitely they are. But honestly, right now I'm thinking, because of the cost of homes, if they're
Yeah.
all buying homes, how can they afford to do anything else? That has
Yeah.
to be so low, where at one time it may have been in the middle. It's gotta have dropped to the bottom. But it may still be a little bit. They
Yeah.
still may want to race in my race and raise the dollars, because that's their experience.
Yeah.
Or they were going to want to run the mud runs, or like they're that younger, there's certain things they like to do. They may still want to golf, they
Yeah.
still may be on doing, and they don't realize they're doing it for a nonprofit, because they're benefiting from what they're doing.
So getting them more involved versus parting with the money per se, like getting them to be the trees of your going out, reaching out
Mhm.
and getting people to sponsor them to do things. But and
Mhm.
it seems like one of the challenges that you might be facing is determining what types of activities would encourage them to participate. Could we build new events and activities? And maybe this is something, a challenge that we could throw out to our marketing students around different
Mhm.
types of events that you and or nonprofits could come up with to get these individuals more engaged
Oh,
in participating and in getting involved.
and it's tough. Like, I know when I did the event, the Amazing Race here in Owen Sound,
Yeah.
and I went to Ottawa, quite a few of my teams from here drove to Ottawa for the weekend and competed. And I know that Teens from Ottawa will come back here to compete. They're enjoying, and they're younger. We have a few older people, but they're young and they're
Yeah.
enjoying. It's not about running a race. It's not about that. It's just being able to work together with your partner, which I think is, again, from mental health, I think that it's really important to get people out and doing things and having fun. Now you're being chased all the time, it seems like, because there's always a team coming up your rear end in most cases. So it is stressful, but I think that it's the experience. How can you make that? So maybe you pull in, like I pulled in a Wendell Clark or a Theo Fleury. Maybe
Yeah.
you find somebody younger,
Hmm.
and maybe that's where even the concerts, they can't afford to go
Yeah.
to the concerts.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how anyone affords to do anything today, to be quite honest, but
Well, and it's not getting cheaper. The Bank of Canada rate just went up again, and it's about to go up a couple more times before. Young people in today's market, it's like they need a couple of jobs in order to sustain themselves. But I also feel that there's young generation out there, Cindy, and I think what I hear from the young generation is they want to participate. But I think where they want to be able to participate is they want their organizations to help support them.
yeah.
So when you think about the organizations and going out and reaching out to these organizations and how to get them involved, what are some of the ups and downs of that element? What are some of the positives or the gains or the challenges you face when you're reaching out to these organizations and getting them involved?
So would you be thinking of like what, like a bank, like a big organization with a lot of
Yeah,
employees, or
yeah,
smaller?
yeah. I think big organizations that, like, because I'm thinking what we're seeing the trend out there right now is around individuals that are working for these organizations that want to contribute to society and the community, and they have some interests in certain areas, but they want their employer to support.
Yes. Well, I was just actually a young lady just joined our board for Big Brothers Big Sisters here in Grey and Bruce, and it was very interesting how we actually, and I'm going to try to find the right words. So if you were looking for a job and you had like a headhunter,
Hmm.
we had a headhunter for this young lady. So this headhunter worked for a bigger firm. They offered to all their employees who would like to sit on a board, who would like to learn how to do that, who would like to, have the education or go through some of the courses. And she was one of them, very bright young woman. And so the headhunter came and found 3 nonprofits that would be best suited for her, which I've never heard of this happening before.
Yeah.
And then presented us as and 2 others to her. She came back to us with great questions, and it was all done on the business time,
Wow.
right? So
Yeah.
that would be incredible. So saying that, or there's different companies that will say up to $500 you donate, we will match it. So
Wow.
now their money's doubled.
Hmm.
So there are different, pardon me, there are different ways, and it's just a matter of at the top. But if it's a smaller business,
Hmm.
don't like that. It happened to be a bank that I was making reference to before, but I don't know. Maybe that's where the better or the Chamber of Commerce, the
Yeah.
smaller that work with the smaller businesses, could maybe help them and run some of those at no cost to educate and get them through that. And then they could then maybe show them what nonprofits are available in their community.
And Cindy, do you see, like, because in some organizations, like you've heard of a company called 10 Trees?
No.
No, so this company 10 Trees is they, if you buy any clothing from them, they'll plant 10 trees for you.
Oh, very nice.
And there's some other different ones out there like native shoes and different
Mhm.
elements. There's some other ornaments. Do we see that as an opportunity for small businesses to get involved, maybe connecting? Because one of the biggest things we talk about in more consumers out there in the way of the digitalization of things is that people want to be part of the story. They want to be
Mhm.
part of the culture, and they now want to see how that business is actually living that culture, meaning
Oh, yeah.
they say they're this, are
Yeah.
they actually doing this?
Yeah. No, and that's fair too. And that wouldn't be any different than any of the nonprofit, any of the nonprofits. How much of your dollar is going to the good,
Hmm.
right? So if you're going to look into the Heart and Stroke Association or whatever, when they do all those big car house giveaways, zero of those dollars go back to the nonprofit.
Yeah.
What they're hoping, all that marketing, all that time they're hoping that individual donations will come back. But when I buy my tickets, none of those dollars go back. And I was
None of
blown away.
those. None?
Mhm.
So why did they do them? That's
It's awareness. Again, it's a marketing. You think of them. So then when they probably send out other things to you,
yeah.
we need your donation, we need your donation. Then I have no idea. I know I
Wow.
could never afford a direct campaign because the direct
Yeah.
campaigns are very expensive.
Yeah.
My dad is a senior, and monthly he gets a stack of different nonprofits that send out to him, and they don't do it once a year, they do it every month.
Wow.
So it makes me sad because I'm
Yeah.
hoping they're not thinking that these people have dementia and will forget and give more than one time. Or if they couldn't this month, maybe they will this month. I don't know, but I just feel bad when I look at Dad's face when he takes it out and he
Yeah.
looks at it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of seniors out there that maybe the guilt gets to them.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
there is a plan behind. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but I wish they were a little bit more conscious of how, like, did they just give their last $20 that they could have bought food, but they were giving it to the Salvation Army or something, which are all good nonprofits.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know. I don't like how he's harassed. That's what I don't
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that, that becomes the element of ethical marketing. I think we as these students are going out in the world, we need to bring in that element of ethical marketing and trying to figure out, hey, yeah, we do need to get message out there. We do need to build these campaigns. We do need to raise funds for nonprofits. And but we also need to be considered who's on the other side of that element and whether this is something that they can afford and bring awareness to that.
Absolutely. And I know when I was talking to your students one evening, it was interesting. Something just jumped in my head as far as a marketing, and that could be for a business or a
Mhm.
nonprofit. I was telling them that whenever I go to an after five, I don't know if you have those out there for
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
okay. So when I would go to a breakfast or an after five, it was usually the breakfast with our mayor in Ottawa when I was living there. I would get there early. I would look at all the name tags on the table. I would say to the girls, if there's a couple people that I wanted to meet, could they please point them out when they arrived?
Yeah.
And I'd stand at the end of the coffee table. I don't drink coffee,
Yeah.
but pretty much every person coming in there was going to come down that line and get a coffee.
Yeah.
And I would just say, hello, how are you?
Yeah.
And, and I was saying to the students, never go all out and say, you got your 3-minute pitch. You don't do a 3-minute pitch. You
Mhm.
listen.
Yeah.
You ask them questions, you learn more about them. Then you can almost count on it. They're going to ask you. And when they ask you, then you can offer up who you are, without being too pushy, because
Yep.
they're going to respect you a lot more than, giving out 1,000 business cards at a table that no one's going to necessarily take with them. So just that coffee table or that coffee line has always just been my in. So if I can share that with students or anyone out there with the businesses, if you want to meet people, go to those networking events and stand by the coffee.
I love it, Cindy, and I love what you're saying too, because again, networking is so important for especially students going out into the business world in Canada. The jobs are very few, and they're out there, and they're usually going to friends of friends. So yeah, again, networking is so important, and I love what you're saying, because I think what people tend to do is they go out and they have this mass approach to it, and they start throwing all these things out. But what they should be doing is being, like you said, being good listeners, concentrating on finding the value of what that organization needs and what value you as an individual can give back to that organization, and try and find that win-win. So,
and I know for a fact that when I'm talking to them, my mind is spinning the whole time, and I'm trying to find somebody within my brain files that, hey, I have a friend. Do you mind if I take one of your cards and I can pass it on to Julie? And even if Julie doesn't connect with them, they think that I'm trying to help, and it's a positive. And the more positive you can give to them, I think, or finding a mentor, like if they're the young students or a young business owner, find a mentor within that, Chamber of Commerce or that group that you can always just stand beside. And I've had them on many occasions, and they'll say, Cindy, have you met Charlie? He's a good friend of mine. And then they do all the introductions, and that respect is coming to me because he or she is introducing me. So that is a really good, making sure that you just have that mentor person, whoever that may be, at an event that you're going to go to that can maybe help guide you along that evening or morning breakfast.
I absolutely love it, Cindy. So, Cindy, one more question that
Mhm.
I have for you. Where is the future of charities going, and
Mhm.
how can we as marketers contribute?
Oh, as marketers, oh my goodness. Well, nonprofits, I can tell you, are all just crazy about having any sort of support. So if you're going to volunteer, that is an incredible spot to start, because obviously you can volunteer in the arts and the music and theater and sports, so many different great places. They all would need you. You have an incredible tool that everybody would need, but I don't want to exhaust everybody either, right? It's just you got to
Mhm,
pick your own places. Nonprofit, I don't know, because there's so many service clubs. I don't know what we would do without these service clubs out there doing what they do, bringing more awareness. They're not getting any younger, so their numbers are going down.
mhm,
If I look at the church and or the Legion, those are places that I used to go to for dollars, very small numbers.
mhm,
Um, I don't know. This is what I wish. I wish that somebody, be that a marketing professor or a marketing
mhm,
class, could take on the Legion and find an incredible way to recruit members to the Legions, because their numbers are going down.
mhm,
And you do not need to be a veteran to be a member anymore. My dad is a veteran and a Legion member. He's 92. He does not look 92. And that isn't like, those are areas that for the younger generation to come and lift that up and bring a new, fresh awareness to something like that. Like, I think that would just be an incredible, every year as part of the curriculum, that's what they work on. And every year the Legions would then all benefit from that. That I think would be an amazing, like, I would love to help, but I'd love to help them too.
I absolutely love it, Cindy, and the message is pretty sound here because the type of individual that you need to reach has changed. It's not the same individual anymore, and we need to look at how do we. And we typically talk about targeting, segmenting, and repositioning. And when we talk about repositioning here, we're talking about creating fun activities that inspire those younger individuals to get
Mhm,
involved in the Legion, get involved in these things
mhm.
that creates that cycle of, hey, instead of going for a beer down the pub, go to the beer at the Legion, and that money is going to go to good use. And so how
Absolutely.
do we really get them involved? How do we get those artists in those places to drive them in the door? I think there's a lot of great things, Cindy, that we've talked about here today.
Thank
And I love where this is going. I love the conversation we've had today. And I think there's some bones there that we need to start to think about. There's some bits of information here that I think our students can play with and wrestle with,
you.
and maybe even come up with a solution for the Legion or for Big Brothers and Big Sisters for you, Cindy,
Oh,
or
I would
anything
love it.
along
I'm
that
selfish.
lines.
It's always about me, David. It's always about me. But I try to let it look like it's about somebody else too.
And just before we wrap up, Cindy, is
Yes.
there any big challenge that you're facing today that you would like for our marketers to start to think about?
Um, I really think that it's just getting our message out, is message and or events. So how do you bring in, for Big Brothers, Big Sisters, there's a lot of families out there. Like, how do we reach these families that maybe need their little one to be part of a Big Brother, Big Sisters association? How can we find more mentors to help out these young peoples? Then again, from sponsorship, how could you find people that maybe just want to make a donation? There's so many levels, and then that wouldn't be any different than other charities as well. So yeah, it's just awareness, awareness, awareness. That's about all these different aspects.
I love the conversation today, Cindy. Thank you very much
You're
for
very welcome.
joining me on this journey. I look forward to having more conversations in the future. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.